I thought my summer at Aunt Clara's would be quiet. But the day she locked my clothes away, leaving me only dresses to wear, was the day my entire world shifted and I couldn't turn back. My name is Ethan, I'm 18, and up until a few weeks ago, I believed I had control over my life. I wasn't extraordinary, just an ordinary boy finishing school, waiting for college to begin. I liked my jeans, my hoodies, my sneakers, the clothes that made me feel safe in my own skin. My parents had gone abroad for work, leaving me in my Aunt Clara's care for the summer. It felt temporary at first, just a stopgap, just a few months until they returned. But Aunt Clara's home wasn't like mine. Everything in her world was precise, polished, and unyielding. Her hallways smelled faintly of lavender polish, her living room was arranged like no one had touched it in years, and her rules were strict enough to rival a military academy. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could count the days until freedom. That was before the morning she changed everything. It was early, sunlight spilling into my guest room, when I went to grab my jeans from the closet. But when I pulled the door open, my heart stopped. My jeans weren't there. My hoodies weren't there. My sneakers gone. Every piece of clothing I had brought was missing. In their place, neatly hung in a row, were dresses. Not just one or two, but dozens. Cotton sundresses, silky slips, frilled blouses, skirts with lace hems, and delicate cardigans. The colors weren't loud, but soft pinks, creams, pale blues, gentle shades that looked impossibly foreign to me. On the dresser sat a box, and on top of that box was a note. My stomach twisted as I picked it up. Aunt Clara's handwriting was neat, deliberate. From this day forward, Ethan, these are your clothes. I've locked the others away. Don't ask for them back. You will dress properly, neatly, and as I say, you'll understand in time. Aunt Clara. I remember standing there, gripping the note so tightly it nearly tore. My heart pounded against my ribs. At first, I thought it was some strange joke, a cruel trick to see how I'd react. But the closet door told me otherwise. A small brass padlock now secured the side cabinet where my old clothes had been. The key was nowhere in sight. Aunt Clara? I called, trying to keep my voice steady. But there was no reply. Just the creak of the house settling around me, the faint tick of the grandfather clock downstairs. I looked back at the dresses. They stared back at me in silent challenge, waiting. And that was how it began the morning my aunt took away who I thought I was, and offered me something else in its place. Something I wasn't sure I wanted. Something I wasn't sure I could escape. At breakfast, I confronted her. The smell of buttered toast and tea filled the kitchen, but I barely noticed. Aunt Clara sat perfectly composed at the table, her silver hair pinned up, her cardigan spotless. You locked up my clothes, I blurted, holding the note in my hand like evidence. She looked up slowly, meeting my eyes without surprise. Yes, she said calmly, spreading jam across her toast. I did.
Why?
You can't just. I can, Ethan. Her voice was steady, like she'd rehearsed this moment. And I will. You're under my roof, and while you are here, you will follow my rules. I shook my head, anger rising in me. But these are dresses. I can't wear. You can and you will. She set her knife down, folding her hands neatly. Your clothes are locked away, and you won't see them again. I've made a decision for your benefit, though you may not understand it now. In time, you will. Her words hit me like cold water. For my benefit? What could possibly benefit me in this humiliation? I won't do it, I muttered, shoving the note onto the table. I'll call Mom and Dad. Her eyes sharpened, though her tone stayed calm. Your parents entrusted you to me for the summer. They won't interfere. I froze. You told them? Aunt Clara sipped her tea before answering. Not in detail. They trust my judgment. As should you. The room felt suffocating. The ticking of the clock, the clink of her spoon, it was like the walls themselves pressed closer. So, what am I supposed to do? I demanded. Just wear them? Pretend this is normal? You don't have to pretend, she said softly. You only have to obey. And with that, she stood, collected her plate, and left the room as though nothing unusual had happened. I sat there, stunned, the note crumpled in my hand.
Obey.
That word echoed through me, heavy and unshakable. Back in my room, I stared at the closet again. The dresses hung there quietly, waiting like a trap I had no choice but to step into. I pulled one free, a pale yellow sundress with soft fabric that seemed to glow in the morning light. My hands trembled, just holding it. Every instinct in me screamed to resist, to demand my clothes back, to fight. But something stronger, fear, perhaps, or the realization of Aunt Clara's unyielding will kept me still. And for the first time I wondered, what if she never gives them back? What if this really is permanent? That was the beginning of my summer at Aunt Clara's. A summer I thought would be ordinary but became the strangest, most transformative time of my life. I didn't know then how far she would push me, how deeply this decision would change me, or how permanent her plan really was. All I knew was that my closet no longer held jeans and hoodies, only dresses. And Aunt Clara had the key. I spent the rest of the morning staring at the dresses, each one a silent reminder that my world had been stripped of choice. My fingers traced the fabric nervously, the soft cotton and delicate lace foreign against my skin. I couldn't help but feel trapped, like a prisoner in my own room, with every color and fold taunting me. The first time Aunt Clara entered my room after that morning, she didn't speak. She simply gestured toward the dresses. "Pick one," she said. I froze. I can't. I don't want. "Pick one," she repeated, her tone calm but firm. "You will wear it.
Now."
Her eyes didn't leave mine, and for a moment I thought of running. I thought about bolting down the stairs, out the front door, calling my parents, anything. But the truth hit me with crushing weight. My parents were thousands of miles away. Aunt Clara had complete control, and my resistance meant nothing. My fingers trembled as I finally lifted a pale blue dress from the hanger. It was soft, the kind of fabric that seemed to float in my hands. I held it against my body, imagining how it would feel to wear it. My stomach twisted. I began, my voice barely above a whisper. "Put it on," she instructed, her voice patient but unyielding. I obeyed. Every movement felt unnatural, every fold of the fabric against my arms and legs unfamiliar. My reflection in the mirror was shocking. My own face stared back at me, framed by the soft lines of the dress, lips glossed faintly with the lightest pink Aunt Clara had applied. My hair, still slightly messy from sleep, fell awkwardly across my shoulders. "Stand straight," she said, walking around me, inspecting every angle. "Yes, like that.
Good.
Now look at yourself." I did. I didn't recognize the person in the mirror. There was something delicate, something vulnerable, something utterly alien about me. I wanted to scream, to throw the dress across the room, to tear it into pieces, but I couldn't. Aunt Clara's gaze softened slightly. "You look fine."
More than fine, really.
"You look proper." "And this is only the beginning." "The beginning of what?" I asked, though the answer terrified me. "Of your transformation," she said. "Permanent, as I told you. You will grow into it, and in time, you will understand why I did this." Her words wrapped around me like chains, heavier than the fabric of the dress itself. I swallowed hard. But why? Why me? "You've resisted structure, discipline, and elegance all your life," she replied gently. "I am simply guiding you. This isn't cruelty, it's preparation. For everything you'll face beyond this house." I wanted to argue. I wanted to shout. But her calm, unwavering authority left no room for rebellion. "Sit," she commanded, gesturing to the chair beside the bed. "We have more to discuss and more to practice." "Practice?" My stomach tightened. "Practice what?" "Living as you will now be living," she said. "Dresses only, Ethan."
Permanently.
That means sitting, walking, eating, speaking, even thinking differently. Posture matters. Voice matters. Gestures matter. You are learning how to exist in this skin, and this skin only. I felt the words lodge in my throat.
Permanently.
Her hands moved gently, adjusting the dress around my shoulders, smoothing the wrinkles, positioning the fabric perfectly. Every movement reminded me that resistance was useless, and every second spent under her watchful eyes reinforced the reality. My life had changed irrevocably. And so, I sat. I listened. I absorbed her instructions, my mind spinning with fear, confusion, and a strange, inexplicable curiosity. Because deep down, beneath the panic and shame, a small voice whispered, "What if she's right?" The next morning, Aunt Clara entered my room earlier than usual. The sound of the key turning in the lock jolted me awake, a reminder that freedom wasn't mine anymore. She carried a neatly folded dress across her arm, soft yellow with tiny white flowers stitched along the hem. "Up," she said briskly. "Today is important." I rubbed my eyes, groggy. "Important how?" "You'll see," she replied, setting the dress on the edge of my bed. "Shower, brush your hair, and then put this on. Neatly. I'll be waiting downstairs." Something in her voice made my chest tighten. It wasn't just another day of lessons or practice. This felt heavier. I obeyed silently, slipping into the bathroom. The hot water did little to ease the weight in my chest. When I dressed, the yellow fabric clung lightly to my frame, cheerful and bright in complete contrast to my mood. I brushed my hair as best I could, but no matter what, I looked like someone else entirely in the mirror. Not Ethan. Not the boy I'd known all my life. Someone softer. Someone different. When I stepped downstairs, Aunt Clara inspected me carefully, straightening the collar and brushing a loose strand of hair back. "You'll do," she said. "For what?" My voice shook. She smiled faintly. "For going out." My breath caught. "Out? You mean outside? Like in public?" "Of course," she answered, calm as ever. "You can't hide in this house forever. If you are to live permanently this way, the world must see you. And you must see how the world sees you." Panic surged through me.
No.
I can't. People will stare. They'll laugh. They'll know. Silence. She cut me off. "They will see what I have prepared. Nothing more, nothing less. Hold your head high, and they will accept it. Lower it, and you invite ridicule. It is entirely up to you." Her words pressed on me like a stone. I wanted to argue, to refuse, to run back to my room, but the firmness in her eyes told me there would be no escape. My throat tightened. "Where are we going?" I whispered. "The market," she replied simply. "Just a short walk. Enough to test you." The thought made my stomach churn. Walking outside in broad daylight, dressed like this, it felt impossible. But when she placed her hand lightly on my shoulder, guiding me to the door, my legs moved against my will. The sunlight hit me like a spotlight the moment the door opened. The world outside looked unchanged, the familiar street, the chirping birds, the distant sound of cars, but to me, it was entirely new. Every sound felt sharper, every shadow heavier. "Walk," Aunt Clara instructed. My heart hammered as I stepped forward, the skirt of the yellow dress brushing against my knees. Each movement felt like an announcement. "Look at me. Look at what I've become." I expected stares immediately, but at first, no one paid attention. A couple across the street walked their dog. A deliverman carried boxes to a nearby house. No one looked twice. The realization made my chest flutter with both relief and confusion. But then, as we reached the corner, an older woman glanced at me. Her eyes lingered just a second longer than normal before she smiled politely and continued on her way. The smile wasn't mocking, it was gentle, even kind. My cheeks burned. I didn't know whether to feel ashamed or oddly validated. "You see," Aunt Clara said softly beside me, "the world doesn't collapse. It simply adjusts. As will you." I swallowed hard, forcing myself to keep walking. The market loomed ahead, filled with chatter, colors, and people. My steps grew heavier with every inch closer, my thoughts screaming that I couldn't do this. Not really. But Aunt Clara's hand pressed firmly against my back, guiding me forward. "Head up, Ethan," she whispered. "You are exactly as you should be." And for the first time, against my will, I lifted my chin and walked straight into the crowd. The market was louder than I remembered. Voices rose and fell like waves, the smell of fresh bread mixed with fruit, and the jingle of coins added to the chaos. My heart pounded so hard I was sure people could hear it over the noise. Every step in the yellow dress felt unnatural, each swish of fabric reminding me that I no longer controlled my own image. "Stay close," Aunt Clara instructed softly, her hand lightly guiding me as we moved between stalls. "Observe, interact. You'll learn." I wanted to protest. Interact? My voice was still shaky from the morning, and the thought of speaking to strangers made my stomach churn. But she didn't wait for an answer. "Good morning," I muttered softly when a vendor smiled at me, holding out a small basket of apples. Good morning, young lady," the vendor replied, his tone kind and unassuming. My stomach flipped. "Young lady?" The word struck my ears like a hammer. I froze. Aunt Clara didn't flinch, though. "Yes," she said quietly, her eyes calm. "You are presenting yourself properly. Accept it." I took an apple, fumbling in my hands. My fingers brushed the vendor's briefly. The contact sent a shiver through me, not unpleasant, but terrifying in its novelty. He didn't comment, didn't stare, just nodded and moved along to the next customer. I exhaled shakily, my face burning. This is impossible," I whispered. "No," Aunt Clara corrected, her voice gentle yet firm. "It is necessary. You are learning. Every glance, every word, every step teaches you how to exist in this new form." We moved through the market slowly, and every interaction tested me further. A child pointed, a man smiled, a woman complimented my dress. Each tiny response chipped away at my resistance. I felt exposed, ridiculous, and strangely noticed. Aunt Clara guided me to the fruit stall. "Pick out some strawberries," she said, "and thank the vendor properly." My hands trembled as I selected the fruit, my voice catching. "Teach, thank you," I whispered, barely audible. The vendor smiled, nodding warmly. "Of course, young lady. Enjoy your day." My chest tightened again. Each "young lady" echoed in my mind, a hammering reminder that my life had shifted permanently, or so she claimed. "Do you see?" Aunt Clara's voice broke through my thoughts. "You can function in this world. People notice you, yes, but they accept you. They respond to the confidence you project. Your appearance is only part of it, the rest comes from how you carry yourself." I didn't respond. I couldn't. I felt like someone else entirely, trapped in my own body, forced to navigate a world I wasn't ready for. And yet, the realization that people treated me normally, without ridicule, gnawed at a part of me I didn't want to admit existed. By the time we left the market, my legs ached, my hands trembled, and my face was flushed. But Aunt Clara's calm composure remained unshaken. "Tomorrow," she said as we walked back home, "we will practice further. At the bookstore. You will speak, ask questions, and interact with strangers there as well. You must learn every step of this transformation." I swallowed, nodding silently. I couldn't deny that she had a plan. And though it terrified me, part of me couldn't help but wonder, could I survive it? Could I actually live like this, permanently? The next day, Aunt Clara was waiting at the door with another dress, a soft lavender one with delicate embroidery along the neckline. She held it in her hands, as though it were a treasure. "Time to practice your voice," she said calmly. "And your manners. The world will not only see you, Ethan, it will judge you. You must learn to present yourself properly." I froze. My voice. My manners? The thought of speaking to strangers in this delicate new form made my stomach twist. "You will do this now," she said firmly. The bookstore. The bookstore wasn't far, but every step toward it felt like climbing a mountain. I clutched the lavender dress, feeling the silky fabric glide over my fingers. Each time it touched my skin, it reminded me that nothing would ever be the same. Inside the store, the familiar smell of books and paper surrounded me. The low murmur of other shoppers filled the space, and every glance from a stranger made my heart leap. "Stand straight," Aunt Clara whispered. "Shoulders back, head high. Speak clearly when asked. Confidence is everything." I nodded, swallowing hard, trying to steady my voice. When a clerk approached, I barely managed a whisper. "Excuse me, do you have any new novels?" The clerk smiled warmly. "Right this way, young lady. We just received some yesterday." Young lady. The words repeated in my head like a drumbeat. I couldn't deny how they made me feel exposed, fragile, and yet oddly acknowledged. Moments later, Aunt Clara guided me to a corner where other readers were browsing. "Ask them for a recommendation," she instructed. "You must practice speaking confidently, even if your heart races." My throat burned. My hands shook. I hesitated, then approached a woman selecting a novel from the shelf. Could you recommend a book? Something light?" She glanced at me, smiled kindly, and held up a soft romance novel. "This one's lovely. I just finished it myself." Thank you," I stammered, my cheeks burning. Aunt Clara's gaze softened ever so slightly, but her words were firm. "Good.
See?
It is not as impossible as you fear. Each interaction strengthens your confidence. You are learning." I sank into a chair, clutching the book she had handed me. My mind raced. Part of me hated how small and controlled it made me feel. And yet, another part of me, a part one didn't want to acknowledge, felt a strange sense of belonging. Aunt Clara knelt beside me, her voice gentle but commanding. "You will continue to practice every day. In public, in private. The permanence of this change depends on your ability to accept it fully. Resistance only prolongs discomfort. Compliance brings ease." I nodded silently, unable to speak. My chest tightened, the weight of reality pressing down on me. Every glance in the mirror, every whisper of "young lady" from strangers, reminded me that my old life, my old self, was slipping further away. And yet, despite the fear, the humiliation, and the uncertainty, a tiny spark of curiosity flickered within me. Could I truly live like this? Could I survive Aunt Clara's plan and emerge stronger or, at least, intact? I didn't have answers. All I knew was that the lavender dress clung softly to my frame, Aunt Clara's eyes held unwavering authority, and my life had irrevocably changed. That afternoon, back at Aunt Clara's house, I thought I might finally get a moment to breathe. I was wrong. She led me to her bedroom, a room I had never been in before. Mirrors lined one wall, and the vanity gleamed under the soft afternoon light. Brushes, powders, and lip glosses were arranged meticulously, each item in its own place. "You are ready for the next step," she said, her voice calm and certain. "To complete your transformation, you must learn how to present yourself fully. Clothes are one part. Hair, makeup, posture, and expression are equally important." I froze. "Makeup? Aunt Clara, I can't." "You can," she interrupted gently but firmly.
And you will.
"Permanence requires mastery. Do not resist." I swallowed hard, my hands shaking as she guided me to the vanity chair. Every mirror reflected back a version of me I barely recognized. The dresses had changed my silhouette, but now her tools would change my face. "First, the hair," she instructed. She brushed through my thick strands, detangling with precision. Her fingers were firm, almost soothing, as she twisted sections into gentle waves. I felt exposed, my reflection softening, my identity blurring further. "Look at yourself," she said. "See the possibilities. You are capable of more than you think." I wanted to argue, to resist, to run, but the mirror told me another truth. I didn't recognize the boy I used to be. My cheeks were flushed with anxiety, my lips slightly parted in tension, but in my eyes, there was a flicker of something else, of vulnerability I hadn't allowed myself to feel. Next came the makeup. She applied a light foundation, smoothing it evenly, whispering instructions. "Gentle strokes. Confidence in your movements. Every touch counts." Blush, softly applied to the apples of my cheeks, made my face feel foreign. My lips were glossed lightly, the faint shimmer highlighting how different I looked. I could barely speak without feeling the unfamiliar weight of my new appearance. "Now the eyes," she said, picking up a subtle eyeshadow palette. "Small touches, but they change everything. Expression is controlled here. Focus, Ethan. Focus. I watched as my own reflection shifted, slowly becoming something I didn't recognize entirely, something soft, delicate, undeniably feminine. Panic and fascination warred inside me. My hands trembled in my lap, clutching the dress, holding onto the last threads of my old self. When she finished, she stood back and observed me critically.
You are ready, she said.
Do you see? You are beautiful, proper, composed. This is not a game. This is your life now. I felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Pride? Fear?
Confusion?
All of it rolled together, tightening my chest. She stepped closer, adjusting a loose curl at the nape of my neck. Remember, Ethan, everything you see now, the hair, the makeup, the posture, is permanent while you are under my care. You will learn to inhabit this fully. You will learn to walk, talk, and act in harmony with it. The world will see only what I have prepared you to show. My reflection stared back at me, stranger and familiar all at once. And I realized, with a sinking weight, that Aunt Clara had crossed a line I couldn't uncross. The dresses were only the beginning. Everything else, hair, makeup, voice, gestures, was hers to mold. And there was nothing I could do. The following morning, Aunt Clara woke me earlier than usual. I had barely slept, tossing and turning under the weight of everything I had experienced: the locked closet, the dresses, the first outings, and the makeup lessons. My stomach was in knots. She held out a soft pink dress this time, flowing and elegant. Today, she said, you will go further. The grocery store. People you see every week. You will present yourself fully dress, hair, makeup. There can be no hesitation. I froze. The thought of walking past familiar neighbors, friends of the family, even strangers who might know me, my chest tightened. I can't. Not there. People will talk, laugh. They may look, she said softly, but confidence commands respect. You are learning, and this is part of the process. Now put it on. I obeyed, my hands trembling as the silky fabric slid over my skin. My hair was curled into neat waves, my makeup light but noticeable. My reflection in the mirror was unrecognizable, soft, feminine, and painfully delicate. When I stepped outside, the sun hit me, highlighting the pink fabric, reflecting off my hair, and amplifying every nervous thought racing through my mind. Aunt Clara's hand rested lightly on my back. Hold your head high, she instructed. Walk as if you belong. You do. I took a shaky step, then another. My heels clicked softly against the pavement. Every sound, every swish of the dress, felt amplified, like the world was listening just for me. The first neighbor I passed glanced at me and smiled. Good morning, young lady, she said cheerfully. I froze, my face burning. Aunt Clara squeezed my shoulder. Respond. Good morning, I managed, my voice barely steady. The woman smiled and moved along, leaving me standing there, heart pounding. It wasn't ridicule. It wasn't judgment. Just normalcy, and that terrified me more than anything else. We continued to the grocery store. People looked, whispered quietly, but mostly, they carried on with their errands. My chest tightened with each step, but Aunt Clara's presence grounded me. Inside, she guided me through the aisles, observing my posture, the way I handled items, the subtle way I smiled and spoke. Notice how they respond to confidence, she whispered. The way you carry yourself is more important than the dress itself. That is your lesson today. I nodded silently, clinging to her words, even as my own mind spun. Each interaction chipped away at my resistance. By the time we left, my legs ached, my cheeks burned, and my mind was exhausted. Yet, buried beneath all that, a strange thought persisted. Maybe I can survive this. Maybe I can live like this permanently. And Aunt Clara, as always, was calm, unwavering, satisfied. You did well today, she said as we walked home. Tomorrow we go further. The park.
Friends.
Complete exposure. You are ready. I didn't know if I was ready, but I also knew I had no choice. my summer, and my life was no longer mine to control. The next day, Aunt Clara decided it was time to test me further. "Ethan," she said calmly, "today you will meet others your age. Friends, peers, strangers, each interaction is part of your lesson. You must maintain composure at all times." My stomach tightened. The thought of facing someone my own age, who might recognize me, mock me, or question me, it was terrifying. My hands shook as I accepted the soft lavender dress she handed me, slipping it over my shoulders. My hair had been curled neatly again, and makeup applied delicately subtle but transformative. "You will do this," she reminded me, her eyes locking onto mine. Confidence.
Grace.
Elegance. Permanence begins here. We arrived at the small local park, a place where teenagers often gathered after school. I could see groups of kids sitting on benches, chatting, laughing, tossing a football around. My heart pounded. What if they noticed me? What if they laughed, pointed, whispered? Aunt Clara guided me closer. "Head up," she instructed. "Smile lightly. Observe. Respond politely." I swallowed, forcing my chin higher, the dress swishing around my knees. One group looked up as we approached. Their eyes lingered for a moment, then shifted back to their games. "Excuse me," Aunt Clara said, softly commanding. "Can Ethan join your conversation? He wants to learn proper social grace." My cheeks burned. I wanted to shrink into myself, vanish, retreat into invisibility. But Aunt Clara's hand on my back reminded me that resistance was futile. The group glanced at me, a mixture of curiosity and surprise in their eyes. One boy raised an eyebrow. "Wait, you're?" Aunt Clara's calm voice silenced him. "He is learning, just as you all learned. Treat him as you would any other person." I stepped forward cautiously, words catching in my throat. "Hello. I just wanted to talk." The teens looked at me, some grinning, some unsure. I felt awkward, exposed, fragile. But then, slowly, a girl with brown hair smiled. "Sure. Come sit." I hesitated, then joined them. Conversation started slowly, my voice trembling, but Aunt Clara stayed nearby, observing, correcting subtly with a gentle nod or a whispered instruction. Over the next hour, I realized something astonishing. They weren't mocking me. They weren't laughing at the dress or my makeup. They were interacting with me normally, responding to my words, my questions, my presence. Each polite laugh, each friendly glance chipped away at my fear. Yet beneath it all, I felt a strange vulnerability. I was no longer just Ethan. I was this new version, fragile, soft, guided, and under constant observation. And as much as I tried to focus on their acceptance, the permanence of Aunt Clara's plan pressed on me like a weight I could not shake. By the time we left, my legs were sore, my chest heavy, and my mind exhausted. Aunt Clara's expression, calm and measured, was unwavering. "You see, Ethan," she said quietly, "you are capable of more than you realize. Acceptance begins with yourself. Others follow naturally."
I didn't respond.
I couldn't. My mind was spinning, caught between humiliation, fear, and a reluctant curiosity. But one thought remained clear. I was no longer just a boy at Aunt Clara's house. I was something else. Something permanent. That evening, back at Aunt Clara's house, the tension in the air was heavier than usual. I had returned from the park, exhausted, my legs sore, my heart still racing from every glance, every word exchanged earlier. My reflection in the hallway mirror caught my attention, a girl in lavender, hair curled, makeup soft yet noticeable, and I barely recognized myself. Aunt Clara entered quietly, closing the door behind her. She studied me for a moment, her gaze sharp yet approving. "You did well today," she said softly. "But your training is not complete." I shivered, the weight of the day pressing down. "More?" I can't. I'm tired." "Good," she said, placing a hand lightly on my shoulder. "That means you are learning. Exhaustion is a sign of growth. And now we take the next step." She led me to the room where all my dresses were kept, each carefully arranged, each piece a reminder of the life I no longer had. She gestured toward a chair in the center. Sit. Today we practice everything together. Posture, walking, speech, even manners at the table. You will learn to exist in this form fully, every moment, every action. Permanently. I sat, my hands folded tightly in my lap, feeling the unfamiliar softness of the dress around my knees. My heart pounded as she began. First, she said, posture. Straighten your back. Shoulders down, chest lifted, head high. Confidence, Ethan. Even if it feels impossible. I obeyed, trembling, but she didn't stop. She circled me, adjusting shoulders, smoothing fabric, guiding hands. Every gesture matters. Every glance communicates who you are. You are no longer just a boy in training. You are permanent in this form. Accept it. Learn it. Next came speech. She had me read aloud, phrases carefully chosen to guide my voice into softness and clarity without hesitation. My words faltered at first, trembling and uncertain, but under her careful coaching, I began to find rhythm, cadence, and poise. Good, she praised softly. Now expressions. A slight smile, gentle gaze, movements smooth. You are learning to inhabit this fully. Her words wrapped around me, binding me, yet a strange sense of realization began to surface. Every movement, every soft glance in the mirror, made me aware that resistance wasn't just futile, it was impossible. I was already changing, becoming this new version of myself in ways I hadn't anticipated. Finally, she brought out a small mirror at eye level. Look, she said. See yourself. Every detail, the dress, the hair, the makeup, the posture, the voice, it is all you now. Permanent and perfect for this phase of your life. I studied the reflection. Every feature softened, framed by curls, highlighted by the faint shimmer of gloss and blush. My hands rested delicately on my knees. My shoulders were square, my chin lifted. I hardly recognized the person staring back. Aunt Clara's voice cut through my thoughts. Ethan, this is who you are now. You cannot revert. You can only grow into this fully. And the world will respond to what I have prepared you to show. I swallowed, heart pounding, mind racing. Fear battled with an odd, reluctant pride. Vulnerability wrestled with the strange thrill of discovery. Humiliation clashed with curiosity. And through it all, Aunt Clara remained calm, commanding, unwavering. By the time the session ended, my legs ached, my mind spun, but a strange clarity had begun to settle in. My life had changed.
Permanently.
I wasn't just wearing dresses. I was becoming something else. Something Aunt Clara had designed. Something that, whether I liked it or not, I had to inhabit fully. And there was no turning back. The weekend arrived faster than I expected, and with it, Aunt Clara's most daunting plan yet. She had announced days before that I would attend a community gathering, a casual summer fair in the park, filled with families, neighbors, and people I had known my entire life. My stomach churned at the thought. Faces I recognized, people who had seen me as a boy all my life, would now witness me in dresses, makeup, and fully transformed behavior. Panic rose immediately, clawing at my chest. You are ready, Aunt Clara said as she held up a soft pastel dress with tiny embroidered flowers along the hem. You have practiced. You have learned. Today you show the world who you are permanently. No hesitation, no fear. I stared at the dress in disbelief. Ready? How could I be ready? Every instinct screamed to hide, run, disappear. But Aunt Clara's eyes were firm, unwavering, and even gentle in a way that made it impossible to argue. Put it on, she instructed, guiding me to the vanity once more. Hair curled, makeup applied lightly, I looked at myself in the mirror. For the first time, I saw not just a reflection, but a complete version of who Aunt Clara wanted me to be. Someone delicate, composed, undeniable in presence. Head high, she whispered. Confidence commands respect. You carry yourself and the world responds. I swallowed hard, gripping the edges of the dress. Every step toward the door felt like walking on a tightrope stretched over a chasm of humiliation and fear. Outside, The fair was already alive. Children ran past with balloons, music played softly from a nearby stage, and neighbors mingled, laughing and chatting. My heart pounded so violently, I feared it might give me away. "Walk," Aunt Clara said, her hand resting lightly on my back. "You belong here." Every step was agony. Every glance from someone familiar felt like a spotlight. "Ethan," a neighbor called. My head snapped toward them and I froze. Recognition flickered in their eyes, but instead of shock or mockery, there was curiosity, even warmth. "You look different," another neighbor whispered. "Yes," Aunt Clara said softly, guiding me forward. "Different and elegant. Accept the attention. Do not shrink." I forced a nod, the dress swishing around my knees, heels clicking softly against the pavement. My fingers trembled, but Aunt Clara's hand remained steady, reassuring. We moved through the fair slowly, stopping at food stalls, watching performers, interacting with vendors. Each interaction tested me, pushed me further, and made me confront my fear head-on. A group of teenagers approached, smirking slightly. "Hey, wait, aren't you Ethan?" one asked, his tone teasing. I froze. Heat surged to my cheeks. My voice caught. "Why, yes." They stared, trying to gauge my reaction. Aunt Clara whispered, "Confidence. Own it." I lifted my chin, straightened my back, and forced a small, polite smile. "Hello," I said clearly, voice soft but steady. The smirks faltered. "Oh, okay," one muttered. "Cool." My chest tightened with relief. The fear was still there, but for the first time, I realized that the world did not need to break me. My composure, my posture, my voice, my presentation, they commanded acknowledgement. By the end of the fair, my legs were aching, my mind spinning, but something inside me had shifted. I had faced judgment, curiosity, and recognition, and survived. Aunt Clara's eyes gleamed softly. "Today, you prove something, Ethan. You can exist permanently in this form. You can face the world, unafraid, composed, elegant. And this is only the beginning." I looked at myself in the mirrored reflection of a nearby shop window, fully transformed, fully exposed. Fear and humiliation remained, but beneath them was a new awareness. I was capable of more than I had ever imagined. And yet, deep down, a shiver ran through me because I knew Aunt Clara's control was absolute, and my life had truly changed forever. Back at Aunt Clara's house, I slumped into the chair by the vanity, exhausted beyond words. The fair had been everything I feared: exposure, recognition, and the constant, burning awareness of being seen as someone entirely new. Yet for the first time, I also realized that I had survived, and the world had not crumbled around me. Aunt Clara entered, carrying a small box of ribbons, clips, and brushes. She placed it on the vanity beside me and looked me over critically. "You did well today," she said softly. "Better than I expected. But survival is only the first step. Permanence requires internalization. You must accept, fully, that this is your life now." Every gesture, every expression, every interaction reinforces who you are. I nodded weakly, unsure if I could even think straight. My body ached, my mind swirled, yet her calm authority demanded attention. She selected a delicate pink ribbon and tied it carefully into my hair. "See yourself," she instructed. "Do not resist. Every detail matters. Your dress, your hair, your posture, your expression, they are all permanent elements of your new self. Acceptance is the key to comfort." I stared at my reflection. The girl in the mirror looked delicate, soft, composed, almost serene, but I felt everything except serenity. Fear, humiliation, curiosity, and a strange spark of pride all warred inside me. "You may feel conflicted," Aunt Clara said gently. "That is natural. But understand this: resistance only prolongs discomfort. Compliance brings ease. Permanence will feel strange at first, but gradually, it will become second nature. And the world will see only what I have prepared you to show." I swallowed hard, gripping the edges of a chair. I understand," I whispered. My voice sounded foreign even to me, soft and feminine, yet undeniably mine in this moment. She knelt beside me, adjusting a curl that had fallen over my shoulder. "Ethan," she said, "look at yourself. You are permanent in this form. You cannot undo it, and you will not want to undo it once you fully embrace it. Everything I have taught you, the clothes, the makeup, the posture, the voice, the composure is now a part of you. This is who you are." My chest tightened. I wanted to argue, to resist, to scream, but no words came. The truth was undeniable. My old self had slipped farther than I had realized. I was not merely wearing dresses anymore. I was becoming this new version of myself in ways I could neither control nor escape. Aunt Clara's hand rested lightly on my shoulder. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "we begin integration into the wider world. Friends, neighbors, strangers, each interaction strengthens permanence. You will live this life fully, without hesitation, without fear. And one day, you will thank me for teaching you to embrace who you truly are." I nodded, trembling. My reflection stared back at me, and I recognized it now as a version of myself I could not reject even if I wanted to. A shiver ran through me, not of fear alone, but of realization. My life had changed. Permanently. And Aunt Clara's control was absolute. No going back. No retreat. No escape. The next morning, sunlight spilled across my bedroom, highlighting the rows of dresses, neatly pressed and waiting. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at them, heart pounding. Each piece was a reminder of the life I no longer had, and the one I was learning to inhabit. Aunt Clara entered without knocking, carrying a soft pastel dress with tiny lace accents along the hem. She laid it carefully on the bed and studied me with her usual calm authority. "Today is important," she said quietly. "We go beyond the park, beyond familiar faces. Today, you are presented to strangers who know nothing of you. Your composure, your posture, your entire presentation will be tested. Permanence must be demonstrated." I swallowed hard, panic rising again. "As strangers? I don't know if I can." "You can," she interrupted gently, "because you already have. Fear is natural. Courage is learned. And you are learning faster than most." I stood, the dress clutched in trembling hands. My reflection in the mirror caught my eyes. Soft curls framed my face. Subtle makeup highlighted my features, the dress flowing lightly over my frame. The girl in the mirror was undeniably me now, and yet I felt a deep, inexplicable tension. The outing took us to a small cafe downtown, where people sipped coffee, read books, and chatted quietly. Aunt Clara guided me in silently, positioning me beside her at a table near the window. "Observe," she whispered. "Every glance, every reaction, every word will reinforce permanence. You are presenting fully, nothing less." I could feel every eye in the cafe landing on me, subtle but undeniable. Some noticed my dress, some my posture, some the delicate confidence that Aunt Clara had drilled into me. Some glanced and smiled kindly, others looked curious, even hesitant. A man at the counter nodded politely as I passed. A young woman smiled, whispering to her friend. And then a sudden chill ran down my spine. Across the room, a familiar face, a classmate I had never wanted to see in this context, looked directly at me, recognition flashing in his eyes. His lips parted, surprise evident. "Wait, is that Ethan?" I froze, every muscle rigid. Aunt Clara's hand on my back was steady, reassuring. "Confidence," she whispered. "Do not falter. You are permanent. Own it." My voice trembled as I replied softly, "Yes, it's me." The classmate's expression shifted quickly, confusion and curiosity battling. He didn't laugh. He didn't mock. Instead, he regarded me with the uncertainty of someone seeing a familiar person entirely transformed. My chest tightened, fear mingling with a strange, undeniable thrill. I realized, with a shiver, that my life had crossed an irreversible threshold. Strangers, peers, even those who knew me, everyone would now see me as I had become. Aunt Clara's gaze met mine, calm and unwavering. Permanence is no longer optional, she said softly. You belong to this new life entirely. And tomorrow, we will take another step further. Into a wider world, beyond familiarity, beyond comfort. Are you ready to live as you truly are? I swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the table, my reflection in the window showing a delicate, composed version of myself staring back. Fear and excitement surged together in a single, unstoppable wave. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The answer was written on my body, in my posture, in the dress, in the hair, in the makeup. I had already begun to live it. And somewhere deep down, I knew the next step would change everything once more. The day continued, yet every moment felt stretched, like I was walking underwater. Each interaction in the cafe, each polite glance, each whispered acknowledgement reinforced the reality I could no longer deny. I was no longer just Ethan. I was someone new, fully molded by Aunt Clara's plan. As the afternoon sun shifted, Aunt Clara guided me to the window seat, overlooking the street below. People walked past friends, strangers, families, and I noticed their eyes occasionally flicking toward me. None laughed. None mocked. Some smiled. Some whispered. And with each gaze, my chest tightened with both fear and an odd, reluctant pride. You see, Aunt Clara whispered, the world responds to what you project. Your permanence is real, visible, undeniable. There is no retreat, Ethan. You must inhabit this fully, every day, every interaction. I nodded slowly, unable to speak. My hands rested on my lap, the dress swishing lightly against my knees. The girl in the reflection of the window was fully me now, soft, poised, delicate, and controlled. Every feature, every gesture, every glance was a product of the training I could not escape. Aunt Clara's voice cut through my thoughts, gentle yet commanding. Tomorrow, we extend beyond familiarity. You will encounter new places, new people, new experiences. And with each, your permanence will strengthen. Your life has changed forever, Ethan. There is no turning back. I swallowed, heart pounding, realizing she was right. Every ounce of resistance I had carried melted under the weight of her calm certainty. I was trapped in this new identity, yes, but also guided, taught, and shaped in ways that terrified me and, secretly, fascinated me. The cafe began to empty. Strangers moved along. Friends returned to their routines. But I remained seated, staring at my reflection in the window, feeling the permanence settle in like a second skin I could not shed. Aunt Clara placed her hand lightly on mine. Remember, she said softly, permanence is a gift as much as it is a challenge. You are learning to navigate the world in a way few ever experience. And soon, you will realize that this life, this form, is yours to inhabit fully. I didn't respond. My voice had long since adapted to the new cadence, soft and measured. My reflection stared back, composed and delicate, yet the tension in my chest reminded me that uncertainty still lingered. Aunt Clara's eyes softened slightly. Tomorrow, we take another step, she whispered. And after that, the world will see only who you have become. Are you ready, Ethan? I swallowed hard, heart racing. My hands clenched slightly in my lap. My mind reeled with anticipation, fear, and an unspoken curiosity. I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Life, as I had known it, was over. And somewhere deep inside, a small voice, part fear, part excitement, whispered, I don't know who I am anymore, but I am ready to find out. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more dramatic transformations and emotional journeys. Stay tuned, because next time, Ethan's world will expand even further, and the challenges of living permanently as he has become will test him in ways you won't expect.